afternoon everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. By way of introduction, I'm Anne Livingston and the Chair of the Queensland Government funded Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative. I will be moderator at today's webinar titled Smart Assistive Technology Transforming Transport Services and Work Opportunities. This webinar is part of a series being facilitated by Community Resourcing for the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative. We've now produced over 27 webinars and on our way to our 30th webinar. These webinars have been designed from feedback and requests we have received through the collaborative, and our webinars are bringing together local, national and international perspectives in research and development, as well as focusing on the deployment of smart assistive technology in the community care sector specifically. Community resourcing has extensive international linkages, and we've been fortunate to work with many of international projects and research. We're also very proud to be awarded the National ITC Innovative Entrepreneurial of the Year Award for this particular project. We're also particularly proud to mention that a number of our expert reference group members have been recognised in awards for their work within the collaborative. I particularly note Professor Greg Teggett, who was recently recognised in the Australian of the Year program and is currently the ACT Australian of the Year. And Dr. Mohan Karunanithy, Dr. Eleanor Horton, Stuart Koplik and myself being appointed by the Minister of Innovation, Science and the Digital Economy and the Minister for Small Business, Leanne Innick, as Advanced Queensland Community Digital Champions. A very exciting and recent development for us includes being finalist in the recent eHealth Queensland Startup and Innovation Showcase for a project that has emerged from the collaborative. And also in the last week being notified as a finalist for 2016 ITAC Consumer Focus Service Award category. Our expert reference group ensures that the information and the activities relating to this project are of high quality and focused. I would like to take the opportunity to highlight the work of our reference group and the amount of engagement work particularly that has taken place within the collaborative site and statewide, nationally and internationally by the project reference team. Recently we held a number of smart assistive technology events throughout Queensland and nationally, which engaged individuals, family members, formal and informal carers, as well as service providers. It's great to share the possibilities and benefits that technology, particularly smart technology, can deliver. It's great to have so many new participants in today's session, and we're overwhelmed each webinar how many new people have come on board, as well as welcoming back many of you who have attended the past webinars and also many who have attended 27 of 27 past webinars. Some achievement, thank you. Today we have representation again from every state and territory as well as some international visitors. I do acknowledge that some of those visitors are bridging extreme time differences to participate, so I thank some of our colleagues in Europe and the UK who are getting up very early to, or perhaps staying up very late to attend our webinars. Those who have attended previous sessions will know that community resourcing has been funded by the Queensland Government to bring together an online platform for community care service providers who are interested in collaborating on issues and practices related to smart assistive technology. Our project has reached extensive national and international geographical networks, and this is growing daily. As many will be aware that we're in the final stages of revamping our platform as well as putting together a consumer portal on the site. In line with our principles around co-design and collaboration, we've used these in developing the new area, and we look forward to your feedback on this new enhancement. It's important that I provide a disclaimer to today and to every webinar that we hold. So please note, as attendees in today's session, that neither Community Resourcing or the Department of Communities, Child Safety and Disability Services are promoting or endorsing any particular product, research entity or organisation. Rather, our webinars serve to inform viewers of various examples of smart assistive technology in deployment and in development. As attendees at today's session, and in the interests of recording, we have muted your microphones. We encourage you, though, to ask as many questions as you want to, and these questions can be added to the question pane on the dashboard on the right of your screen. There will be an opportunity at the end of the session to have these answered. At previous sessions we have been overwhelmed and inundated with questions, so please post your questions early to ensure that we can cover it in today's session. The project team and myself will moderate those questions and hopefully get all of them answered in today's session. In today's session, though, it's a great topic and part of our series of smart assistive technology, transforming the way that transport services might be delivered. This is the third in the session of transport series, and in today's session, Jason Triolo from Uber Australia will discuss smart assistive technology and how it is transforming transport services and work opportunities. By way of introduction, Jason is the Accessibility Lead for Uber Australia, and in this role he is focused entirely on developing more accessible options for Uber and the platform Uber uses across the country. Jason previously spent 3 years in the not-for-profit sector in California, advocating for people with intellectual disabilities. He's also completed a master's degree in the UK focused on the rights of people with disabilities in developing countries, and this was a particular focus on Uganda. Jason has been on the Uber Sydney operations team for the last 2 years. And he's really enjoying the opportunity of blending his passion for working within the accessibility space with his operational experience at Uber to make transportation more accessible to all Australians. Please join me in welcoming Jason to today's webinar. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction, Anne. I'm just getting set up here. Just one moment. All right. Thank you very much once again for having me today. I'm just going to go ahead and discuss what I'm going to be talking to you about very briefly. First, I'll go ahead and give you some context about exactly what the Uber platform is and hopefully give a bit of an explanation for people who may not be familiar with how it works, both from the perspective of someone using it as a rider, someone who's using it for transportation, and also someone who's using it as a driver in order to make extra income. So we'll go ahead and just jump right into the what is Uber. So Uber is a technology company. We have a smartphone app that connects people with their own personal vehicles, what we call driver partners, with people who need a ride, and what we call riders. Now this company started in San Francisco about 6 years ago now. In that time we've grown to over 400 cities around the world in over 70 countries. It says 10 cities in Australia. It's actually 11 as of 2 weeks ago. We're currently operating in Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Adelaide, Canberra, Newcastle, Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, Toowoomba, and as of 2 weeks ago, Byron Bay and the surrounding region of Ballina and Lismore. We did start out as a company that offered this technology to help people move people. That's expanded over time. The technology has now we've been able to leverage it for transportation of various other items as well. We have the Uber Eats platform, which enables people to have food delivered through the app. Uber Rush, which is similar to a courier service. And we also have the opportunity to use the platform for really unique and innovative on-demand promotions for things like Uber Ice Cream, where for one day people were able to use the app to have ice cream delivered to them on demand, or also being able to incorporate the app with partnerships with nonprofits. Uber Puppies, we actually partnered with animal shelters around Australia, where we were able to have offices request 15 minutes of puppy time, cuddle time through the app, and the shelters had the opportunity to promote pet adoption to all of their captive audiences in the office building. So really unique ways to use the technology we have available to us. We've been in Sydney since October 2012, which has been our first city in Australia, and UberX, which is the ride-sharing service, which is a kind of what everyone thinks of when they think of Uber, that arrived in Sydney and Melbourne in May 2014. And in the intervening periods, we've continued to grow. We have hundreds of thousands of riders across Australia and thousands of driver partners at this point in time. So just to go ahead and dive right in, I'll start first of all with what we call the rider side, which is transportation, right? Transport options. And I'll just start this off with a video, just quickly explaining a quick summary of why people have taken a shine to ride sharing.
I've been an Uber user since about 2012. In fact, I used Uber this morning. It's a fantastic service. Before Uber came along, you'd call up on the phone, you'd wait for maybe half an hour, and if you're lucky, maybe a taxi would show up. Now all I do is pull out a phone, hit a button, I can see a car arrive. Usually it takes about 3 or 4 minutes into the city. It's absolutely fantastic.
Mate, well, I love it because it's so convenient. I didn't have to wait for a taxi whatsoever. That's what I love about the service. On the doorstep, ready to go.
The great thing about UberX is it's all about crowdsourcing. We have 23 million people in Australia. What better way to get a service delivered than getting one of the 23 million people to actually go and drive you from location A to location B? It's the premise by which I built the entire business in 3 years. UberX is clearly the way to go in the future.
So you do this as a part-time?
Yeah, so I'm actually getting married.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I've got to save up some money for this.
So this is a good way of getting a little bit of money. So.
You always know you're going to get the best drivers because the crowd also rates the drivers. So every time you do a trip, you basically rate the driver 5 stars and provide feedback to a good or bad. And that way that ensures you always get the best service at the best time.
All right, so that it kind of runs through just a quick summary of the top reasons why people say that they enjoy using the Uber platform. The main thing is the ease with which they're able to get a ride. It's convenient, it's reliable, and there's the transparency and the feedback that's given between riders and drivers. So as he said there, you just push a button and you get a ride. Pulling out your phone has never made getting a ride easier than it is now, and that can be applied across the spectrum. Just to kind of explain in a little bit more detail, again, for anyone who's not familiar, the rider experience is pretty straightforward. We kind of can break it down into 3 components: request, ride, and then rate. This is what you're looking at here is the outgoing version of the app. We're actually mid-transition to a new version of the Rider app. I'll show you kind of the 2 different, what they look like. But this is the one that many of you will have used up to this point in time, and it's on the way out by the end of this month. As you can see here, you request by tapping Set Pickup Location. You can select the product type that you want down the slider at the bottom. That middle image will show you what happens once your trip has been accepted by a driver. You actually see the name and the vehicle, the name of the driver and the vehicle that they're coming to pick you up in, what type of car it is, and the license plate number. Obviously, this is really important for safety reasons. You also get to see the driver's ratings. You have a sense of what other riders have rated them. You'll also notice a few other pieces here. The contact button allows you to contact the driver via phone or text message, but all of the numbers are masked through an anonymous platform so that you're not sharing your private information. There's also the ability there at the bottom to split your fare with friends and family. And another one that's key for safety is the Share My ETA, which enables you to actually send a live trip, a live map of your trip to anyone in your phone contacts. They'll actually be able to watch along with you as you travel through the city and actually see in real time through GPS where you are and when you're going to arrive at the destination. At the end, you'd be prompted to provide the rating 1 to 5 stars to your driver, and they'll be doing the same to you. So obviously, I think it's pretty clear here that the technology has made a very seamless experience for people to hopefully get past the the old model of calling ahead, hoping that someone will come to pick you up. You have all of the information right in front of you. Just to kind of clarify what I mentioned before about the change in the app, many people may not have this yet, but this will become the new version for everyone. What you'll see here is rather than starting off with the pickup location, you'll actually start off with telling the app where it is you want to go. And once you've told the app where you want to go, it will give you a number of options, different product types. You'll actually have a fair estimate of exactly how much that trip will cost, or a range of what that trip might cost you, depending on the different product that you select. And then again, once you've started the trip, you still have all the same information. You have the driver's name, license plate, type of vehicle, as well as some other bits and pieces that I think might be of interest to you based on your destination. So that's the rider experience in summary. Now, one of the ways that we've been trying to address the accessible transportation issue is through a service called Uber Assist. Now, Uber Assist is active in the majority of the cities I mentioned. We're active in Australia. The only exceptions are Adelaide, where we'll be launching in the next couple of months, and in Byron Bay and Toowoomba. They do not yet have this service, but hopefully sometime in the near future. Uber Assist is designed to provide additional assistance for members of the community who need a helping hand getting from one place to the other. The driver partners who are on UberX already, essentially if they've done over 100 trips, so we know that they know exactly what they're doing on the platform, and they have excellent ratings, they're much higher than the average, and they have the right type of vehicle, so one that's large enough to accommodate folding wheelchairs, walkers, or collapsible scooters. We invite them to participate as an Uber Assist driver. If they opt in, they will receive training provided by the Australian Network on Disability, just about disability awareness and the different needs and safety requirements of people who have different accessibility needs. Now, this has been a really, really popular option in many of the cities around Australia. At this point in time, it is not intended to be for motorized wheelchairs or wheelchairs that cannot be collapsed. We are working on a trial of wheelchair accessible service, initially in New South Wales, and then hopefully to expand that outward to other cities as well. Just to go a little bit more into the accessibility issues here, we'll go ahead and play another quick video for you.
For the last 7 years, I've been a weekend warrior triathlete. Gym allows me the freedom to train as much as I like, so I go up to 4 times a week. People, for some reason, are often quite amazed or surprised when I say I do triathlons, because I think we still have a stereotype where people think that if you are blind, your world is rather limited and dark. That couldn't be any more wrong. I discovered Uber in South Africa, where I was living at the time. It was the first smartphone app which enabled people who are blind or vision impaired to independently order a car and actually track its progress.
Request Uber Assist. Button.
I can arrive when I want to, I can stay until I've had enough, and when I'm ready, just like anybody else, they pick up their car keys, I pick up my phone, and I open up the app and I order my car. It's as simple as that. I really, really feel empowered by that.
When Uber introduced the idea of being able to move people with disability around the city, I grabbed on that opportunity straight away. In the training, we were given the understanding of how people with disability feel and how they want to be treated, just like anybody else. We were given many different types of disability. A lot of them are not even visible. It gives me that sense of fulfillment at the end of each day, knowing that I helped 10 people today. It means a lot to me.
I'm a 20-year-old arts law student majoring in international relations and economics. Then in my spare time I do some volunteering with a youth organisation that's all about education and empowerment of young people. I was quite healthy up until the end of high school when I got sick with a chronic illness, which has then sort of progressed over the past few years. So I've gone from being able to do everything that all of my peers can do to using a cane, crutches, wheelchair. I've had to adjust to a lot of changes in just what my body can handle. Uber Assist means that even on my worst days when I can't lift up my wheelchair, I can still get places. I know that I have a safe option. I'm hoping to do something, either policy or ending up in a not-for-profit. I am able to be a voice for myself and for my community, and that voice is able to be heard.
My name is Jesus. I am in the drama year writer. The good day because you can drive an area to the volume coming. You said drama. Okay, I'll regard you like a family. We have people I take this group who then to the drama year writer. That's what he goes and he is the help and center. About the blue air, sad. Okay, have a go. I will follow you. I'm able to be a leader. I'm able to make it different. I'm able to help the community. I'm able to make it different. Help extend to the drama you're trying to. Goodbye.
All right, so the last part of that video is actually a perfect segue into moving from the rider side to the driver side. Obviously, on the rider side, we offer a service like Uber Assist, and in the near future, wheelchair accessible options as well. But there's also a lot of opportunity for people in the accessibility community, whether that be someone who is deaf or hard of hearing, or particularly it's a very good opportunity for carers as well. Economic opportunities afforded by driving on the Uber platform. So that's just switching into that mode. I'll kind of go through these three different sections here, which is the fact that driver partners essentially work for themselves, the payment's relatively easy to understand, and the customer support satisfaction is high. Now, with the driver partners working for themselves, that's in this case, is the schedules are completely flexible. So the app, the driver app, you go online when you want to drive, you go offline when you don't want to drive. It's that simple. The hours that you drive and the locations in which you drive are completely up to driver partners. There's no one who tells them when they have to do what. It's just whenever they want to drive. Now, what we do try and offer is assistance. So this is here an example of Sydney. We send out weekly newsletters to driver partners along with text messages and other information with utilizing all of the trip data that we have at our disposal through the GPS tracking of these trips, so that we're able to help people maximize their time and their income if that's what they want. In Sydney, for example, we can show them that the peak times or the best hours to drive in terms of earnings are during the mornings, during the the peak hour of getting to work, or on Friday or Saturday evenings. And actually, weekends just generally are a pretty busy, popular time for people to get around. We also are able to do that, break that down by location, so we can provide people with really specific information about when and where to drive if they really want to make the most of their time. Otherwise, though, it's completely up to them on what they'd like to do. Now, the next bit is kind of about the payment, which, again, is very straightforward. Payments are 75% of every fare that's completed. So each week, the fares that were completed from Monday to Sunday, the driver will take 75% of that home. It's deposited directly into their bank account each week. We have something called dynamic or surge pricing, which also helps to balance supply and demand and give drivers the opportunity to earn a bit more. So the way that this works is that if demand outpaces the number of cars that are on the road at that time, prices will automatically increase so that more drivers head to that area, which you can see here in the image. The redder it gets, the higher the rates have gone up. And that also encourages riders to wait until maybe a little bit later before they actually complete their trip, bringing demand back down, and the equilibrium returns. In this case, if you're a driver and you're in a surge area, you'll get a multiple of the fare. So depending on the multiple, you'll see there's some examples. They get to earn more. This is particularly important in, as in this image, Bondi Beach and Sydney in the early morning hours when people are all trying to get to the CBD to work. Now, in the last bit here is about the customer support satisfaction. We do offer 24/7 support both in the app and through our website, help.uber.com. And there's support centers that are open 6 days a week in the major capital cities. In some of the smaller cities, we don't have an in-person presence. We do maintain the in-app and email support. Now, the feedback system is one of the vital pieces of keeping this system working the way that it does. At the end of every trip, the rider and driver partner are asked to rate one another between 1 and 5 stars. It's an average of 4.5 or above is required to maintain access to the platform, which ensures that we only have the best riders and drivers using the system. The average partner rating here in Australia is over 4.7 out of 5, which is pretty great. We aim to make sure that only excellent driver partners and riders use it, so we are relying on everyone's feedback to maintain high quality. Just to do a quick run through, similar to how I did with the rider app, just do a quick run through of the driver app as well, and then also show how we managed to develop the technology further to enable and empower people who are deaf or hard of hearing to also participate in make money on the platform. So in this case, normally what will happen here is the trip request will come in. That's the first image you see on the left. The request comes in from a rider in the nearby area. This driver is the closest person to them, so he's going to get this request. They have 15 seconds to tap that circle, and it will be beeping very loudly at them to indicate, to grab their attention. Once they've tapped to accept, they then are given the pickup address of where that rider is located. So they simply tap navigate if they want turn-by-turn directions. They'll also get the rider's first name and their rating as well. If they tap up in the corner, they can contact the rider, again, via text or phone call through anonymized phone numbers, or they can cancel the trip if needed. Once they've picked the rider up, the green bar at the bottom will simply slide across to start the trip, and again, the entire thing will be tracked by a GPS. At the end, they'll simply swipe the red bar at the bottom, complete trip, and at that point, the fare is calculated based on how long it took, the time, and how far they traveled, the distance. Just through consultation with various organizations like Deaf Australia, as well as some deaf and hard of hearing groups in the United States, we're able to determine that there were some additional ways that we could update the application to make it easier for deaf and hard of hearing drivers who were interested in engaging at the platform to participate. So I'll go ahead and show a quick summary of that. All right, so those are two of our driver partners in Melbourne who've been with us for a while, and they've done thousands of trips between them. They've really, it said that the features that have been put into the app have made it possible for them to do this in a much more streamlined and an easy way. The main differences here are here on the first one in that trip request stage, where generally there's a very loud beeping sound and the countdown blue circle for 15 seconds. In this case, the beeping is replaced with very bright flashing. For someone who may be hearing impaired, the bright flashing is to grab the attention. The rider is notified that their driver is deaf or hard of hearing, so they're encouraged to enter as much information as possible in order to reduce any friction in terms of communication when the driver arrives to pick them up. This is also really important when it comes to contacting the driver, because as you can see in the third image, the calling option is actually turned off, or it's grayed out, and instead the rider only has the option to text the driver, as obviously they won't be able to hear the phone call. So these are just some of the ways in which I've been able to leverage the existing technology to increase access and increase opportunities for individuals to be able to use the platform. Just a quick kind of wrap up of the trip experience. At the end of the trip, if there are any issues, the driver is able to report the issue using the Need Help button in the app, again, through using 24/7 support. Payments are always cashless, so when riders create an account, they do have to enter credit card information so that they're charged automatically at the end of their trip for the amount of their fare, and that way there's no cash involved, no cash exchange, which increases the safety of the platform. That's obviously incredibly important to us. Safety is our #1 priority in all respects. It's why we have things like Share My ETA, cashless payments, constant GPS tracking, and the ability to utilize that data to deal with any potential issues. There's no anonymous rides. So having said all of that, I think that's a pretty good summary of the system and how it all works, but I'm more than happy to discuss it at more length with you guys.
Thanks, Jason. Great presentation. Our question pane has lit up, and I think I hope we're not going to be in fear of collapsing by the amount of questions that have come in. Jason, really a great coverage, and I'm probably going to start with a couple of comments from providers. Joe, who's a provider that's joined us in South Australia, really loves your example of co-design. And Joe belongs to a living lab in South Australia who's doing some great work, and really just wanted to comment about how appropriate and significant she felt that the experience, which was somewhat immersive, about no sound through you showing the deaf experience. So she just wanted to make sure that we actually acknowledged that, and that Uber is ahead of the field in co-designing, co-creating their technology. So thank you for that, Jason.
Thank you.
I've also got George from Newcastle, who is just asking a very practical issue around Uber, about how do you register to become an Uber user, an Uber driver. Would you like to answer that?
Sure, that's great. I actually have a couple of extra slides in here just in case this came up, because I figured it might. The rider sign-up process is extremely straightforward. So for anybody who is looking to use the app to get around and actually move from place to place, all you need to do is download the Uber app, which is available in the App Store on iPhone or the Google Play Store on Android. I believe it's also available on Windows phones. It had the icon you see there at the top of the slide is the app icon you're going to be looking for. I have actually set up a special promotion code for anybody that is on this particular webinar and does want to create an account. If you enter the promotion code there SAT community. The first ride on the platform will be up to $20. It's free for the next couple of months. So by all means, feel free to write that code down and enter that when you download the app. The other really big one is Uber Assist. So in some markets, unfortunately, in some cities like Sydney and Melbourne, we just don't have quite the number of drivers who have gone through the training yet, because until now, it's been in-person training, which is really difficult to get large numbers of people into a room at any given time. One of my major projects at the moment has been putting all of this training with Australia Network on Disability online so that we can more easily get drivers who want to participate to get through the training on, at home in their privacy of their own home in their own time. What that means in practice is that in cities like Sydney and Melbourne, the view is unfortunately locked. So if you want to take Uber Assist, you do just have to enter this promotion code, AssistAU, and that will unlock the Uber Assist option for you forever. You just have to enter it one time. In other cities like Newcastle and in Queensland, that is already there, visible to you in the app, so no need to unlock it with a code. Having said all that, I'll move on to the driver sign-up process. So that website is a bit different. You visit to that particular web address. You'd also have to download the Uber driver app, which that icon is on the screen here as well. It is a completely separate app. It's available on the Google Play Store for Android. For iPhone, unfortunately, it's not yet available in the App Store, but you can download it at that web address. This app will not work for you until you've actually completed the sign-up process. That process, it's a little different in every state and territory, but they do kind of follow a few kind of consistent rules. So this is like a sample checklist here. This is the example of New South Wales. In New South Wales, you'd have to have a valid full driver's license from that particular state. You do have to have held a full Australian license for at least 12 months the last 2 years. And you do have to be able to pass a police check and a driving history check, as well as driving an appropriately young vehicle. Now, there's also regulatory requirements involved, so that includes applying for things like a driver authority from Roads and Maritime Services, getting a medical, etc. So it is actually, it's not a very painful process, but it isn't something that can happen overnight. We do want to, again, make sure that people are meeting the regulations placed by government and making sure that it's as safe a platform as possible. So, you know, the background checks and driving history checks are very important. This is a very similar kind of checklist that you'd see in most of the states and territories. It just gives you an idea of what you need to have prepared. But if you do go back to this page here, bonjour.uber.com, and sign up, you'll put in what city you're in, and you'll receive follow-up emails with specifics about your state, your territory, and what would be required.
Thanks, Jason. That's great response and some great information. I've got a very practical question here. We've got on today's audience a number of people from sites that are currently National Disability Insurance Scheme sites. And I know, Jason, you're very around the rollout of NDIS throughout Australia. This particular site is a more regional site, and Joe from one of the NDIS sites that's been established is wondering about your rollout around regional and perhaps more rural and remote sites. Would you like to make any question? And his question is particularly framed with a reference about accessibility to all consumers who might want to use their package to access different transport services, including your own organisation.
Of course, yes. Very familiar with the rollout of NDIS. I'm sure it's no surprise to anyone. It's a bit complicated in terms of getting all of our ducks in a row as to becoming a registered provider. That is probably going to be the step that needs to be taken, and so that people can use their NDIS funding for transportation on the Uber platform. And I do think it's very important that is an option that's available to people. So we are beginning the process of figuring out how that works and how we can actually become a registered transportation provider with NDIA. It's not going to happen overnight, certainly, but it is something that I'll be working on over the next, at the next period of time. Now, in terms of remote and regional areas of the country, at this point in time, we're not in those areas yet. That is true, and obviously we want to be in the long term. We want to make sure that our mission statement actually of the company actually is transportation as reliable as running water everywhere for everyone. Now, the accessibility element is really crucial for the everyone part, but the remote and regional parts of the country are important for the everywhere part of that mission statement as well. The recent launch of our services in around the Byron Bay area, particularly around Lismore, is actually going to be a really great litmus test for us on how we operate a much less densely populated area. Up till now, are part of the way that the app and the system works so well is that there is kind of a critical mass that's reached in these denser populated areas. And so one of our big challenges from an operational point of view is figuring out just how to make that experience just as reliable and just as user-friendly for people who live in more sparsely populated areas. And it's certainly a top priority for us over the next year or so. So I would certainly say keep an eye out over the next 12 months because you will start to see more branching out into more and more remote areas over time. It's a really important piece of the puzzle for us.
Thanks, Jason. I've got a number of questions from one of our frequent flyers, Gavin from the Sunshine Coast. I'm going to let him, on this occasion only, Gavin, ask a couple of questions. And the first one is there any loyalty program with Uber?
Yes, we do actually have a driver rewards program called Momentum. So for drivers who, it's actually kind of like a tiered loyalty program. So if you drive, at least one trip in a month, you are at a bronze status. If you go above a certain number of trips, or a certain number of points, I should say, you're up to silver, gold, and then platinum. And at different levels, you can obtain various discounts from certain, businesses out there. We're about to have discounted fuel options for, so people can get cheaper petrol, and that discount will get higher the more you drive. Same with discounts in various, potentially car insurance, tax returns, that kind of thing. I'm also personally working on getting together a loyalty program discount that's accessibility focused, so we'll and allow people to get free comprehensive hearing assessments, which is often, especially for our deaf driver partners, part of the driver accreditation process required by government, and so that will also remove some of the barriers to getting on the platform, which I think will be really important.
Fantastic. And I'm going to allow Gavin one more question, but he's also posted asking if he's the winner of the chocolates for the best question, and I'll tell him he's not yet. Is surge pricing in effect across all Australian regions, and does it correlate with to times or events, e.g. concerts or airports? I'm not quite sure what you mean there, Gavin, but perhaps, Jason, you can answer that in respect to peak times.
Sure. Yes. So surge pricing is something that's it's across the board, no matter where you are in the world. It's done purposely again to address those supply-demand imbalances. Now, what happens? It's actually done in real time. There's an algorithm that's turned on that essentially we don't really do anything with it. It just runs in the background, and it can detect, how many cars are in an area versus the number of people who are actually in their app looking for a ride at that given period of time, and it adjusts the fare accordingly. So you can actually see sometimes the fare multiple change in real time. Now that, as I believe, as Gavin would kind of point to here, that certainly increases in and around events and things like concerts. if you think about a concert venue or a sporting event, you know, thousands and thousands of people all being released at once out into the streets, all of those people opening their app and all trying to get a ride simultaneously. And of course, there's only going to be a limited number of drivers in the area. So you would often see fares increase in those points in time, and that is actually that's pretty common. We do try to ameliorate that a bit by, again, informing drivers as much as possible of any major events or you know, special things that are happening in a city, to really try and drive as many people to that area as possible at the appropriate times, so that that supply and demand imbalance isn't really quite so pronounced. And that's part of what the operations team, you know, at Uber is there for, is to try and identify those points in time in those events and make sure that drivers are aware of them, really encouraging them to, you know, to get out and to be where they're most needed.
Jason, I've got a comment. I think it's more a comment, but you might like to comment on it. Sonia is just posted, this is a great example for community care providers about how you're using big and small data to drive your business and drive transformation in the way that you deliver the business.
Yes, I think the application of all of this data is actually where it's what drives a lot of the success of the company. There is so much data at our disposal that it does make, and no, I can honestly say no decisions are made at Uber that are not data-driven or data-based. We're always looking at what the real numbers are saying, and trying to make adjustments and make decisions around that. Because that's what's really going to improve the user experience, whether you're a user as a rider or as a driver. That's extremely important to us.
And I guess for our community care smart assistive technology collaborative, that whole issue of evidence-based and data-driven decision-making is extremely important. And I guess we're striving to open discussion and debate about how that can inform and transform community care service provision. So thank you, Jason. I've got another question from Gina from Tasmania. Gina's asking about how could any organisation sign up en masse to Uber?
Right, so this is actually interesting. We do have something currently called Uber for Business, which is for businesses that want to have an account that, you know, say their staff members can expense rides. So in the past, a lot of you know, companies would have cab charge accounts, and people could take their taxi trips to and fro, and they would be able to charge those back to their company. We can now do that with Uber by having a company create an Uber for Business account. But on another level, I actually think it's something that's coming very soon, probably in January or so. We have something coming called Central, which is actually going to be a centralized dashboard for organizations, particularly organizations like disability service providers, aged care providers, hospitals. They'll have a dashboard on their computer through which they can request multiple rides simultaneously for as many clients or patients or guests as they want, and have it all charged back to them directly and invoiced monthly. And that's going to make a huge difference just in my conversations I've had with organizations around the country that provide services for people with disabilities or for in aged care. You know, they've said a lot of our clients might not have the use of a smartphone, or may currently be unable to you know, use the Uber platform in the typical way. And so for us to be able to utilize the platform on their behalf and actually request rides for them, and actually be able to track it in real time and see that they've got to their destination, that this is going to be extremely valuable for the sector, which is something that I'm thrilled to kind of see as a use case for this technology, and really looking forward to it getting launched early next year, so that we can see the impact it can have in the industry.
Jason, our dashboard's just lit up with that suggestion. And Jeff, a member of our Queensland Community Care Transport Service Delivery, has said that this has, your last comment, Jason, has the ability to transform the way community transport has been delivered in this state and nationally, and how do we get involved in that? Jason, I guess one of the issues for us in the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative is to continue to talk about how smart assistive technology can transform the service delivery models and workforce development that revolves around it. So we'd hope that we could continue the dialogue through our collaborative, but I'll hand over to you for any other comments.
Sure. Obviously, it's going to be a brand new piece of our platform and our technology. So I'm sure at the beginning, we're going to certainly be looking for a few braver partner organizations to be those first ones on there, so help us work out any potential teething issues or any kinks in that. But in the long, usually that stuff gets dealt with pretty quickly, and we hope to then get organizations onboarded very quickly into the new system, so that it's there for them to use. What I would suggest is I'll just give my email address, which is jasont@uber.com. Just go ahead and feel free to email me directly. That way I can go ahead and add any organizations that are interested to the list of organizations that are keen to get on board once it's launched, and then we'll be able to reach out early next year and get that process started, so that, as I know, again, from just my home conversations, it's probably the thing that's the most looked forward to from members and people in the sector that I deal with every day, and I'm certainly very excited about it. So feel free, again, jasont@uber.com, and that actually applies to just any accessibility-related questions regarding what we're doing at Uber in Australia, and I'd be happy to get back to you.
Great, Jason, thank you. And we'll also be providing some contacts at the end of the session. I'm also keen to just remind people, if they have some questions, to put them in the question pane to the right of your screen. If we don't get to some of the questions you've posted by the end of the session at 2 p.m. today, we will certainly follow up with you those questions. I've got a question though from Noni at far north western Queensland, and she has reluctantly, Jason, joined your session today because she's not so much interested in community transport or transport services, but she's really interested in the way that her service might transform itself. And she talks about wanted to reflect on your slide that said you had a 4.7 out of 5 partner rating, and she's reflecting at some of the service delivery aspects of delivering a community care service with partners, and her experience is that they've got nowhere near 4.7 out of 5. Can you talk a little bit about how you've achieved that and how that might relate to other parts of business?
Sure. I will do keep in mind that those ratings are for individual drivers and riders, and obviously I'm talking here in the average. But what we've done is we've essentially, obviously the two-way rating system is very valuable as a feedback loop, so that both, again, riders and drivers are kept to account for their performance and their behavior. 4.5 we put as the minimum kind of floor to use the platform, because we found that that's generally what about 95% of the population is able to stay above that, and it really helps just kind of pull out the ones who really are probably not going to be the best drivers, or they're very maybe not the right temperament for this type of customer service oriented role. Well, when I said the average rating in Australia is over 4.7, again, that's just an average of what all the riders and drivers across Australia have obtained from one another. for people who are kind of struggling, and again, it becomes quite clear when the closer you drop to that 4.5 level, it becomes quite obvious that perhaps they're just missing a piece of what makes a successful driver partner. What we have, some companies have already cropped up around the country offering courses on how to how to offer better customer service, how to improve navigation skills, how to use GPS and mapping software. They actually provide that information so that drivers can improve and see their ratings increase. And what we're happy to provide that information, to people who want it. Some people who don't even who have excellent ratings actually go through those courses just for the, the extra education and making sure that they're providing the best possible service. Now, what we found is just generally people want to do a good job. So when people get out on the road, they want. It's really satisfying for people to get those good ratings and those strong, solid comments, because people can leave comments as well. When people receive positive comments, we put that in their app for them to see. And we have I have one driver I was talking to today. He screenshots all of his positive comments he gets just to he just likes to, he takes pride in his work and his ability to connect with people. And I think that that's really important, that because it's kind of a self-policed system, people really do their best and they go out of their way to provide great service to one another. And on the rider side, they are well-behaved, chatty, they want to, get to know their driver. So it's a really, really neat way of kind of community building in that regard.
Fantastic, Jason. Thank you. I've only probably got time for 2 questions, so I do apologise for everyone who's jammed our screens, our question pane with questions. But Terry is a community care transport provider, so he's very interested in how Uber is rolling out, and asked the question, are you looking to provide a pricing as part of your model?
So we're looking to provide a pricing?
Provide fixed pricing as part of your model.
As far as I'm not honestly aware, I don't believe so. I believe that, so for example, looking at the head of the wheelchair accessible trial that we're planning to launch in New South Wales, that is going to be pegged to the same, the same fares as an UberX ride would be. So at the one hand, someone who is using a wheelchair would not be, required to pay a higher rate because they're using a wheelchair. They would be paying the same rate as anyone who takes a standard UberX trip. On the other hand, it does mean that that is still a variable rate based on time and distance, etc. So that is kind of the way that the model is set up. I don't know of any plans to have fixed pricing set in there, but I'd never say never, because this company changes all the time. So I think again it would come down to what the data is telling us and what people want. Tremendous,
Jason. One more question from InGov, who actually says, it's been a great session. Jason, thanks so much for your contribution. Is there a schedule of Uber events coming up? Maybe a developer program? InGov is obviously interested from the IT perspective.
Sure. Unfortunately, we don't actually have developers here in Australia. All of our app developers are based at our global headquarters in San Francisco. So everything related to the development of the app and engineering the app, it's all done in San Francisco and not anywhere else globally at this point in time. Now, hopefully in the future that will change. I think we all like to have an engineering and developer presence in other places as well, but that's not currently in the cards, I don't think. In terms of Uber events and the like, we've been trying to have more and more of these. So we will be we'll have a presence, an exhibitor table at the Workability Expo in Brisbane on 2nd of December, I believe. 1st or 2nd of December. We've recently sponsored the Deaf Expo in Melbourne and the Deaf Festival in Parramatta here in Sydney. And we'll try to have a presence at events like this more and more especially now that I'm in this particular role and focused on accessibility.
Terrific, Jason. I'm going to hog the limelight here. One of our project team members for the last question. And I do apologise for there's probably about 60 questions we haven't got to. So I do apologise to that, and we are going to follow them up individually. But this question, I think, sums up. Lizzie and our project management team loved your presentation, and particularly your focus on accessibility. But she very unashamedly wants to know, how does she get to cuddle a puppy?
I don't know when the next time we're doing an event like Uber Puppies will be, but I would certainly say we'll have it all over social media when it happens. So I guess follow us on Facebook or something like that, and you'll be sure to find out the next time we do an event like that. Absolutely.
Jason, one of my challenges will be controlling her until that event happens. So thank you. A wonderful presentation today, Jason. It really opens the opportunities where businesses embrace smart technology, how that smart technology driven by data and evidence can change and transform the way services are delivered. So on behalf of everyone, I'd like to thank you for your presentation today, and I know that you need to move on from today's session. So thank you, Jason. I'll just go through and finalise today's session. After this great session today, we've got a number of sessions coming up for December, and I'd encourage anyone who is just registered for the webinars but not on our site to register on the site so you get this information. But we've got 4 events coming up in December. One looking at the future of work in 2035, tomorrow's digitally enabled workforce. We've got another session in our using iPads, and particularly we're looking at how this device can assist people with vision impairment. And also we're going to segue to our UK contributor, Dr. Kevin Doughty, who's going to tailor-make a session on smart assistive technologies in wearable devices, particularly those that are assisting people with hearing loss, and that's on the 9th of the 12th. And on the 15th of the 12th, we're going to look at our last session for 2016, the use of electronic assistive technology for people with disability, particularly in living shared accommodation and supported accommodation. So therefore, particularly diverse range of issues, and there's also a series of forums behind those webinars looking in depth at these issues. We've got another number of upcoming engagement activities. We'd love to hear from people who are on the link today about involvement in those. So in February we'll be in Central Western Queensland with a roadshow, in April in Far North Queensland. In June we're also undertaking a study tour and site visit throughout Asia and Canada. To finalise today's session, I'd like to particularly thank Liz, Imogen and the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative Project team, the expert reference group that I mentioned earlier. I'd also like to particularly acknowledge the Queensland Government for their foresight in funding this project. And Jason, particularly like to thank you as presenter at today's session. Thank you, Jason.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
For more information about the Smart Assistive Technology project, the email address is on your screen now. I'd encourage you to register for the collaborative, and we'd love to hear from you in one of the forum groups or with any correspondence. Thank you everyone for today's listening.